What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, good.
I'm doing great,
Good, good.
Joe. How are yourself?
Good. Last time I saw you was a couple months ago in wonderful Iceland.
Yep.
So
Real fun, right?
it was. I actually liked it a lot. Thanks for the hospitality there. So for the audience, Remco,
Yep.
Marco, we're at Global Data Summit, an awesome conference at Reykjavik. They invited me out, and I'd never been to Iceland before. I think the first time I saw Remco in person, we
Right.
immediately went for a hike. So I think,
Well, it was a fun hike, right?
yeah, Marco, were you on the hike too? I think were you?
I was not long enough. I didn't have much enough time to actually hike in Iceland. No.
Okay, yeah,
He's a
but if
hiking guy, but he came in too late.
okay,
But
well,
I did hike with Remco on previous occasions. So
awesome. He's a man of adventure. So, I guess to kick things off, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Maybe starting with Marco, since you've not been on the podcast before.
I indeed thank you for having me, Joe.
Of course.
Well, about me, my introduction. I have been involved in information modeling for over 2 decades, and initially, I thought that was great to design good normalized databases, but over the years, I realized it's way more than that. It's getting about requirements, being able to communicate with domain experts, and then work to the level where artifacts can actually be semi-generated for tech that still align with the business needs. And that's been my um, go-to area now for almost 25 years. So.
Cool. Awesome. Good to see you, Marco. And Remco, you've been on the pod before, but reintroduce yourself.
I will definitely reintroduce myself. Thank you, Joe, for having me. That's
Of
first.
course.
And I'm into BI data warehousing for over 2 decades now, doing a lot of data modeling. I think as we're in the same field of Marco, that I realize it's not about the data model, not about the tech part, it's more about the communication, right? How to translate what business wants into a data model, and that's basically what I'm currently working for, helping out teams, coaching teams. I have my book written, of course, on this topic.
Congrats.
Work with Marco on my template, what he says I can generate. He can use my templates to generate a part of the model. So yeah, that's basically my job. It's having fun, hiking, talking, riding, and data modeling.
That's
And,
very
and,
fun.
and we both try to align on the dress code here tonight. So
We try to align. Yeah, you miss your print, huh, Marco, but yeah.
I my dress code's usually black, so that's how that goes. But
But you have
you
a cool
guys
shirt.
look snazzy together. It's great.
You have a cool
So
shirt, Joe. Don't worry.
thank you. Yeah, it's the actually the Iceland shirt. So yeah, it's so you guys have been in the data space for a while. I've been in the data space for a while too. I think it's the trajectory's funny where we all start maybe a bit more technical. Then at some point, maybe we find religion or something. I'm not sure what it is, but now we're talking about everything except the tech typically, right? Why do you think that is? Walk us through that progression of hardcore techie to I guess curmudgeons like us.
Well, I would say
you wanna kick this off, Remco?
I'm going to kick this off. I think for me, I started in the tech field. Actually, I studied informatics for a year and I quit because it was too techy for me. Right, writing assembly code and program on the chip itself, I didn't think was very interesting. I did a lot of tech when I went into BI and that one, and I found out that it's not about the technical solution. It's about what can you offer to the people using your solution, whatever your solution is. And for me, that was really kicking something in. Said, okay, I can do anything. I think tech can do anything, regardless of what you want. Tech can resolve it. Might cost a little bit more, yes or no, but that's not the interesting part. The interesting part, for me at least, is what do people want? How can I convince them what I want and how they want to see it and what they're talking about? How can I get that information and then make sure tech is delivering it? But I think for me, at least personally, I would say even when I studied in informatics, I still know what a Stack Overflow is. I never experienced that one for a long, long time, but I still think that basic tech knowledge is good for anybody working in data. It is all about communication, right? That's what you want to do, at least what I want to do.
Yep.
Marco.
Yeah, you're making me smile. I saw Stack Overflow a couple of times today still, so I'm still very much in the tech field in that respect. As I said just earlier, is that I was still debugging the code, and I'm still trying to get my head around the issue that's in the code at this point. But
fun.
it is fun. It's the challenge is to not walk away too early, but keep hacking at it to the point I'm like, okay, now I need to walk away from it, and then things fall into place. So hopefully tomorrow I'll have something to resolve this. So I'm very much still doing that, but I think at the same time I was always a little intrigued by how people communicate, and in all the years that I built software and end user products, I from startups that had a crazy idea to actually the end deliverable. It takes something else than you learn in school to actually listen, not just to this is what we want, but actually listen in a way that you realize what where they're coming from and what they need, and that kind of walks in parallel with the tool development that I've been doing for the past few years, trying to facilitate exactly how do we talk about it, and how do we share that knowledge, and how do we document it in a way that everybody can start using it. Again, I'm still deep into tech, but I'm also continuously looking for how can I leverage that to a level where people can actually use it in their own way of working. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why
is that important?
Oh, sorry. Just
go on. Go for it.
I was just saying that in my current assignment where I am, I recognize what Mark was saying as well. It really is all about communication. How do we communicate in a way that people are doing what they need to do, either from a tech part or from communication with people from the organization or the business to gather their requirements. It's all about that skills we need to have. And maybe you need to have gray hair. Sorry, I'm not going to turn gray, but I'm an old dude myself. But maybe you need some gray hairs on that one to just say, okay, now I'm at the stage where I can understand it is about communication and not about techie fun stuff and new tools everywhere, whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But what you say?
No, I'm not sure if I used to be young and I didn't have gray hair then, and I was doing the same thing in a way. So
yeah. But why is this so hard though, right? Because I feel like this is one of the challenges that we often see in the data world in particular, right? You obviously see this in tech as well. IT projects fail miserably all the time. Some succeed. Data projects have a pretty similar success rate. I'm putting this in air quotes. And a lot of it does come back to communication. A lot of it does come back to organizational stuff, right? Why? But it seems like we've been struggling with the same issues for decades. At least from where I sit. Maybe you have a different perspective. Why is this stuff so hard?
Huh.
I can tell you a fun story. I once had the thought that I'm going to create a training. Well, basically a double training. One was IT talk for business people, and the other one was business talk for IT people. Because basically, people going into IT or in the IT department are almost binary, right? They're talking ones and zeros. And of course, exaggerating generalization, but that's what they do. And people in business don't understand what they mean. For instance, in IT, we love terms like involved party because it's easy in our terminology, whatever. I never heard anybody in an organization, all the organizations I've been in, not from the IT department, talking about an involved party. Never.
For the
And I
audience, you want to
think,
explain what maybe the party role type thing that data modelers talk about? Because I think this is a really good example of where communication can go wrong.
well, to be honest, I don't even know what it is. If him to me, yeah, we have a party and a party has a role and a type. Said, okay,
Yeah.
what do you mean? What do you mean? And then say, oh, let me look it up. What do we have over here? Oh, we see that the party can be
No,
a natural person being a customer or an employee. So why don't you just say customer and employee then? And I think, yeah,
there's a reason why people introduce that, because it's very generic and very abstract in a way. You can apply it to many things. And then, we did a data modeling workshop in Phoenix in March, and they had a use case where they introduced the party concept. And the case was actually revolving around an event. And people could sign up, and it's like, okay. And I was confused with the similar question. I asked the host, I said, we're talking about party. Are we just talking about we're having a party? Does it mean that there is a party, as in a group of people, or is it a party that is actually signing up to deliver food for the event? So there's so many words that can lead to confusion. And the counterpart from the IT world would be, if I have different participants taking an interest into a certain event, but we don't know which people or roles or departments or employees those are, can we generalize it in a way that we can get away with it after we build it and in the next few months? So what usually happens is that in IT, from a tech perspective, if the communication has not been fully delved into, is then the escape hatch would be to build something very abstract, which then loses meaning for the business. So this is the catch-22 that is happening from my perspective a lot.
But doesn't it mean, and I'm asking you guys because, hey, you know all the fun stuff, right? But we do as IT people, and I consider myself mainly still as an IT person, kind of. Doesn't we make a huge mistake? Because when you talk about party and involved party or whatever you're going to call it, right? You say, yeah, that's generic, abstract. Well, it's definitely abstract. It's generic. We can put in everything. We don't need to know more than whatever. But still, when you're looking at it, and that's my take, I getting in information from a CRM system, and I need to roll that into a party with a role and a type. So my CRM system comes in with customers, whatever, and I'm going to put it in the generic abstracted way. So I need to put extra effort in to make sure that my party has the correct role and the correct type. Same from HR perspective, I need to put extra effort in to make sure it's the right role and the right type, etc., etc. Reading from it, reporting from it, I need to filter on to make sure I get the right filter on the right role and the right type. So it seems from a boxy perspective very generic, abstract. At the same token, it is not, because we need to do extra effort to get data into an abstracted level because we think it's easy as IT people. Well, it's not. It's way easier to just use the terminology and the information you're getting from the business.
Well, to be frank, I agree with you, Remco, that you should be as concrete as possible. And I was just describing the party issue as an example. Because I found it in various presentations and sessions as well, is that, and I think that's a big difference between IT and business versus any other technical profession, and I was just, when it came up, I remembered, my wife knows more about car mechanics than I do. So I bring the car to the garage or to the shop and it gets fixed and I get it back and I pay the bill. Do I really need to know all of that? No, of course not. Does it bother us in our business dealing? No, it doesn't. But the difference between IT and the actual business using the IT is slightly a different symbiotic relationship, because what in essence, and I think I mentioned that somewhere in the book that I wrote, is that when people work together, they communicate. They tell each other what they're doing, and they tell each other, they inform each other what they're doing tomorrow and what they did yesterday, so that we can get on board with what needs to be done as a job, as work, as tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what IT in essence does is it automates precisely that communication. And with the increase of technology, it increases in diversity, in complexity. Used to be a business expert that went on a programming training and he programmed the computer. Now you need a whole team. You need a portfolio manager, product owner, a data architect, an enterprise architect. So it became such an inflated field of complexity that we forget that all of that is still, in essence, automating the communication that happens on the business side. And I think that's why it's so important that we don't shy away from exactly the communication that the business does, because that is the essence of what we're trying to automate.
Mm-hmm.
But the party role, for example, right? So that is commonly appears in maybe data modeling patterns type
Sure.
books, right? So the ones by Len and so forth, and David Hayes, right? So they're the ones that sort of exemplify it. And John Giles came back recently with his books on patterns, and I think that it's one of those tools. I think if you're modeling data, it's actually they can help simplify things. I mean, John points to a lot of examples in his books for simplifying the chaos of 600 different entities and bring those down to a handful of them. And so, but I think the danger is, and as you guys I think are sort of pointing out, is when we start bringing this into the discussions of the business, right? So I think this is one of those tools where it's more like the mechanic, right? If you take the car in, mechanic has all their tools in the garage. It's not like they have them out in their, they're not showing you or your wife these tools. Like, hey, this is exactly how we do things. Like, I could give a shit about what you do, just fix my car. And I think this is very much like the patterns where they're probably useful abstractions, especially when you're dealing with a lot of various complexities. But at the same time, it's not what I would bring to the table if I were talking to a business person. I mean, would you bring that nomenclature or the vocabulary to a discussion with your wife, assuming she's not in data modeling? That'd be really weird. Like, so, for our marriage, like, what party and role do you and I want to engage in, and your family members as well? Like, how does this work? Right. That would be a very weird conversation. Like,
it is very weird. And I one slide on my when I do training, whatever, on this part, I said, where they said a text about, hey, did you hear about this involved party having an arrangement with our involved party regarding a thing? Nobody understands what it is, right? So instead, you need to be clear. And to come back what you say earlier, even on John Giles, great guy, had a lot of fun conversation with him as well down under. But I don't think that if you go to any organization, and I love to be challenged, that there will be actually, I like to talk about core business concept, really the terms being used in the organization, that you really go over 150 business concepts in any organization. I don't think there are way more. Because think for yourself, right? That from a business concept perspective, right? And there might be some on some part there might be going a little bit more detail, but on average, on the whole organization, enterprise-wide, how many terms can you remember and can talk about and can discuss and make decisions about? I would say 150, maybe 180.
Well, being able to remember off the top of your head is one thing, but one of my biggest client is the Dutch Railroad organization. They are currently migrating a system to a newer version of the software, and they have about 20,000 terms that are distinct. So it can be very complicated.
It can be very complicated, but then at the same token, are there not sometimes instances of a term instead of the term itself?
No, actual terms.
Okay.
I'm talking type level. Yeah.
Cool.
But I'm impressed. I mean, but
definitely, I'm definitely impressed.
they have laid out an information architecture that beholds about 25 to 30 information domains that need to be integrated. So, and there is no way that you can manage any of that without proper communication about what are we talking about.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
20,000 is a lot. I mean, so let me ask you this then: if you were to model 20,000, are these concepts or just terms, like distinct terms, or they're overlapping concepts within those terms, or are these each in like represent something like very very discrete to the business?
It's distinct. I think if you would implode it to something called a business concept or a class entity table, God knows what, you might maybe divide it by 10.
Okay,
But
still
then
a lot.
you would still have 2,000.
Yeah. I think they are really one of the organizations which are really on the edge of.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and they've been doing this for non-stop for 18 years. So, then you really build a decent vocabulary.
Wait, doing what for 18 years?
Doing information modeling with
Jesus.
capturing the communication and building and building and more.
Are these the same people that have been around since day one, or has it sort of been an inherited project over time?
Yeah. That's an interesting, because the theories that were developed in the 70s. So were they present since day one? I think they got on board somewhere around 2000, and I got on board somewhere around 2004, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of that in the perspective of like a child growing up to become an adult. Like that's about the number of years we're talking about.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
Are they out of the house yet?
They're in the military now. They're off doing basic training.
I tried kicking them out, but they don't want to go.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it has, I mean, and this is, I'm not going to be too much on this topic, but one of the most shocking accomplishments, if you will, was that, it's very woven infrastructure, right? So if anything happens with some piece of track somewhere else, then the whole country is, in chaos. And they, for any incident happening at the rail, before they could send in a maintenance crew, it could take them 4 hours, because they had to look up, okay, where is it? Which system is involved? How do we inform passengers? How to block a signal? How to get a different train in, etc. But those 4 hours were killing the national infrastructure. And by continuously mapping out all the system integration points and modeling it until everything is done, they managed to build a fully automated system, that can do all of that live. They can, it's kind of like Google Map. They can zoom in, draw a little area, and they can turn the machinery off in 2 seconds.
Wow.
So
pretty cool.
And they're not stopping. So they're automating more and more, also because they need to increase the amount of traffic they can run on a piece of track. They need to go across border in Europe to connect with all other parties that run trains. And again, you can only manage that if you're clear about your communication. It's not about the data. It's, are we talking about the same thing here?
And
I think I was on one of those trains once. I was on a train that left Eindhoven and it got broken down in Brussels, and I think I was there for 4 hours in my train. That was amazing.
Yes.
So you've been on the tracks in the Netherlands, right? You see that how condensed everything is, how everything connects to each other.
Now,
we love our railroads, and we hate them when they go on strike or having an issue.
But it is an issue. It's. Dare I ask, did the train break down in
Yes,
Belgium?
It broke down inconveniently right outside of Brussels, so you couldn't just walk back. You had to wait for another. Right. So they finally got us going backwards to get another train. But yeah, it broke down.
They're rather infamous for that. So yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because everyone had first class seats, and we're all just sitting, like literally sitting in that whatever the standing area is between the trains.
And then with all the data in the world, you will not be informed what's going on.
Nope, not at all.
Because the systems don't communicate with each other.
No, I was literally looking at plane tickets. Like, do I just jump out of this thing and walk and get a plane and go to Paris? Because that's these guys aren't telling me when I'm going to be leaving at all. So you mentioned something interesting though. So 18-year project for information modeling, right? This is I'd be willing to say in the United States this is something that we don't really do here. Like I don't know of that many projects, if at all,
I,
that last 18 years
I wouldn't
ever.
call it I wouldn't call it a project.
Project. Okay, well, it's more of a lifestyle, it seems. But like,
It's a
what would
program.
you call it?
It's a
It's a
program.
program. Okay.
It's like you don't run HR like a project. You don't run finance as a
Right.
project.
And
You don't, it's
That's interesting.
if you're doing business and your organization grows. I mean, they have various thousands of employees. They have hundreds of systems, and they have subcontractors, and all of that needs to work together. And you cannot look at it as, okay, this is a project. We'll be done in
Right.
6 months. This is an ongoing effort that continuously develops and needs to be adjusted.
And I think this is a perfect example where you see on BI and data world, right, is that you cannot treat BI or data as a project. You can start with a project, say, hey, we're going to set something up, but then it's running into a program because
Right.
it's continuously going to continue, right? You can't just say, oh, we built your data warehouse, we built your cube, we built your reports, now we're done.
No, it needs to be
What happens?
integrated.
You will
Yeah.
get new systems in, you get new requests, you get different users, you get a different idea, it should literally never stop. And the only downside is that a lot of projects I know of and involved, I think we all know, is that they kind of treat it like a project and say, now we're done. And then if we come to an end, and they say, well, it's an end of project. And if ever it comes to an end, they said, well, it's not giving what it does, let's start again. Right? That's why we
Yeah.
have the famous quote, 3/4 of data warehouse projects fails. I would say 3/4 of 000 projects is failing.
And don't think of it lightly. I talk about it because it's a very impressive effort, but I've seen also many organizations that try to get down to this path, but then get pushback from middle management, from tech management, from new management. It's like it is so hard to not only start this because it's so different, but also to keep it going and not let it get sidetracked.
That's actually a really interesting point, and I never thought of it this way before. The project versus program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in America, for example, right, like we're very short-sighted here. I think I'm speaking generalizations, but I think I'm pretty spot on with this too. Where it's, what's the ROI of this project, right? You're not going to tell me we're going to be here for 18 or infinity years working on this thing, right? Like, what's a vendor sold me a tool. Here's the completion. Here's the Gantt chart that we got to do. That's not a program. It's literally a project. We have project managers, right? We don't have program managers, for example, right? Like that's so. This is the mindset, and it's something I've noticed between the U.S. and Europe in particular is, well, the U.S. and other countries too, is in Europe, for example, right? I was having a discussion last year with a friend of mine, and I said, I think the Europeans they just do data modeling better. And what I meant by this is there's more time to do data work. There's more time to think about things because you don't, at least as far as I can tell, the pressures that we have in the States, you don't have nearly as many, right? Where, for one, it's more difficult to get fired. But there's also, I just think there's a lot more time to do stuff. And data is very much a thinking person's sport. In the U.S., it's like, okay, can we get this done this quarter? Because we got to get this project going. We got to get the ROI on this to prove its value. If we don't, this whole thing's getting cut like in 2 quarters.
Or when the projects come to an end, then we fire a whole bunch of people because they're not needed anymore. They were only there for the project. And I try to, in the Netherlands, let's be very honest, Joe. I think we might do a little bit better in Europe or the Netherlands, but I think we still have the same issue over here. Not all organizations treat it like a program. I literally had to tell a bunch of people and some of the projects to say, and to management to say, if we're going to do this one, don't expect that your team is going to be smaller after we completed the first run, right? So the first set of data run. I think it's only going to be bigger and growing and continuously to be on a certain level for minimum because you get more questions. If you are having a success from a BI perspective, from a data perspective, you only grow and grow and grow because you're supporting your organization.
That's where the program starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because it's, I grew up in this country, and I grew up in IT in this country, and it was only when I started speaking at international conferences and that I talked with other people, and everybody kind of looked at me like, you guys are at least a decade ahead of us. And, meaning guys in the Netherlands. And I'm just looking around in the Netherlands thinking, oh my God, it's not by a long shot, it's there. So I think everything is, in that respect, relative. I mean, there's many cultures that have very much a getting things done culture. In some ways, specifically looking at some of the theoretical research that started in the 70s, is that there was a mindset of trying to get to understand things thoroughly. And in the Dutch society, if we don't plan, the sea is going to come in. So there's something in our DNA that like to do
we
things.
We need to do something, and we need to maintain it, not as a project, but as a program.
I mean, they don't teach you that at kindergarten, but everybody's aware that we need to take care somehow.
Well, you're lucky. You live below, above sea level. Right?
Yeah,
I live below sea level, so
that's why we have a spare room for you guys, Remco.
Thank you. No, but I think that's true. What Marco's saying, right? From other cultures' perspective, other country perspective, we might be looking at us to see way ahead, and we see different cultures. I think that's the interesting part, seeing different cultures, how to see how Germany is treating projects, how France is doing projects, or US, or Finland, or whatever, and we do it in the Netherlands. I think that's cool. You get a better perspective on how far we are at certain parts and how far behind we are at other parts.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like if you look at Bay Area startups, for example, right? So I remember it was last year, or was it earlier this year, giving a talk, and some gentleman at now it's a public fintech company, but at the time when he started, he was a startup, and they had to take a lot of shortcuts, right? Got VC money. In this case, it was somebody who had success at one of the biggest fintech companies in the world, started another company. I'm not going to name what it is, but it exploded, right? But apparently the infrastructure is quite creaky. The data infrastructure, as this person said, I guess his now program is to, as he put it, put bubble wrap and duct tape around the systems and the data every week. And that's literally the job now, and there's no time to go back and do it over again.
It's a technical that you cannot fix.
And at the same token, we in Europe, at least we in the Netherlands, look at all the startups popping up in the US, right, and being successful or not, whatever. We see them all coming up, and how fast they're going. We think, whoa, that's fast. Don't look under the hood. Keep it tight.
Yeah, but I was struck by the culture, for instance, and this was over a decade ago, that I was involved in a business venture that was a startup that was bought by an Israeli company at the time, and currently it's in the hands of a US company, because companies buy companies all the time. But I was there to explain them what I had built in 2 years' time. And within 2 days, the developers just picked it up and ran with it. And I'm like, what the actual? How do you make that, how do you make that speed in such a short time? So every culture in that respect is a little different. But I do see that, everybody's talking, becoming data-driven. Now it's AI-driven. And it's like everybody tries to get ahead without doing the fundamental stuff in a proper way. Because if you have the fundamentals correct, then you have your data correct. Then you can do your AI Correct. And all of those things don't come out of thin air, and they don't come for free with just buying a subscription or a tool. You actually have to do the work. And I'm sorry to say that that is not being educated anymore. So everybody grows up with, oh, fancy tools, and the LLMs and the AI is going to do it for me. Whereas statistics show again and again they feel productive, but they're actually counterproductive. So there's a lot of dubious stuff going on, and managers just think that it's the next hallelujah and praise the Lord, this is going to save us, and it's not.
It's all about the shiny objects keeping in front of you. Hey,
Right,
new shiny
right.
object. Hey, there it is.
And I am using it, so don't get me wrong. I'm not against. It's just
No, we're
you
not
have
going,
to
not,
know.
but it's kind of going, going to build in. Oh, we have a crappy product, and oh, by the way, now we added something new into it, and if it's AI or whatever, I don't care. It's new shiny. Just go and buy a new product. It resolves everything.
Oh yeah, and especially with AI, because the temptation for executives is very obvious. If I can automate my business with this stuff, I don't need people.
Yeah,
Yay.
so you would
Win-win.
think. So you would think.
Right? And I know that that MIT study recently came out. I called it half baked in my article because it's actually not done yet. But it's interesting because they've so the headline was 95% of generative AI projects fail. What was interesting is that the fault was really the technology itself, where it was missing memory, for example. So people would use these tools. So the other thing that was interesting is like 90% of the companies they had surveyed, everyone was using ChatGPT on their own account for their work. So they're seeing, so ChatGPT is used everywhere. But at the same time, it was like these specialized tools that people were buying and piloting. They didn't have the context. The memory was crap, so for simple tasks, ChatGPT would do a good job. For other stuff, it just, at least as of now, the tools, were not quite up to snuff. I would say, given the pace of progression in these tools, I would say they'll probably be there, hopefully soon, but who knows? But it is interesting because everyone's like, AI, we don't need to hire anybody anymore. No more engineers, no more juniors, nobody. We just,
You don't even need people in HR anymore.
No, not at all. It's AI resources now.
So we only need investors, no people.
There was and I think you can still use it. One of the I would say tech journalists in the Netherlands. He was doing AI, and I think it was already a year ago. And he introduced, there was a writer, and she wrote a book for the teens, right? And they were young adults, a book. And they started a virtual AI, completely AI-driven team to promote the book, including people running the project and doing the writing stuff and all the commercial stuff. And it was easy. And it did a perfectly fine job. It came up with campaigns. It came up with, you need to talk over there. You need to speak this one. And it was, okay, indeed. Why would you hire a publishing company?
Right.
Someone else is doing all the work for you, including especially the promotion. I know that you're writing, Joe, and self-publishing is a thing. I know it's definitely a thing, but all the promotional stuff, right? There's a whole thing going on.
What I find interesting is that, in the 90s, we still did fixed price, fixed budget, fixed time projects. Just let's talk first, come up with a preliminary estimate, multiply it by 1.5, and that was it. This was the sum of money that we needed. We will build it in such.
And afterwards, we got the lawyers in to discuss what is out of scope, and we still build it or not, right?
And it's, we were talking with managers, and at the time they looked at us and said, "Hey, you're using a database," and we're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Why don't you use XML? Because with XML you can do anything."
That was the talk back then.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not, wow. How do you reply to that? I mean, and nowadays, if I would present my car mechanic with these kind of questions, he would just be dumbfounded. It's like, where are you coming from? It's like, My car squeaks. Why don't you use an AI? Let's listen to the experts. And if you then say, okay, we don't have to listen to the expert because the AI is the expert, then you're completely lost.
Where do you think AI fits into the world of data modeling and information modeling and so forth?
It's my latest intern.
Yeah?
I have a modeling AI, whatever. I would say is my assistant or my intern. It can definitely help if you feed it with proper, and then again, it's a proper business case, right? You have to talk to business. This is what it is. It gives me the basic layout, which I can use to properly create a data model, at least on a logical perspective. And I think you can do the next step is to say, okay, this is the logical one, and find out where the data is coming from. I'm very sure it's capable of doing that one. I'm not going to build that far because that's way beyond what I want to do. But that's basically what I think AI can help. But I think AI and agentic or whatever is on all stuff an assistant helping you. Humans should always be in the loop, right, to make this decision. This is correct or this is not correct. So we always need to be able to understand what did it do, where did it come from, and is it correct.
Yeah, I'm a little more apprehensive about that. I think that is basically due to me seeing some of the jargon in some of the organizations that are so specialized. You will not find it anywhere on the internet. So an LLM or an AI will not be able to make heads or tails out of that. And as long as you stay within the more generic areas, you'd be hard-pressed to not find a piece of documentation on the entire internet or a book that hasn't been scraped.
Have you tried supplementing it with RAG, though?
There's some mixture that you can use, but I think what you can also see that is there is a trend to actually feed the AIs with ontologies, which means where did the ontology come from? Well, somebody crafted it first,
Or an
not
AI
the other way.
model.
Yeah,
but Marco, this is with my not breaking anything because I'm just a simple guy doing some stuff. I do some prompting, RAG, right, kind of stuff.
Right.
What I said to and it's in ChatGPT, I said to it, this is the documentation you can use, the knowledge you can use, including an ontology, including some extra learning stuff, including my book, some other information. This is the information you're allowed to use. That's it.
Okay.
And when I talk to business people, I can get that information. I can use Firefly or whatever, use the information from a workshop, even with specialized people, and just say, this is the information I'm getting, word by word. This is what you gave to me. And I feed it into that one. And I get back my business concepts and the relationship between my business concept, including a short kind of definition kind of thing. It's not perfect, but that's again, it's an intern, it's an assistant.
Right. No, yeah. As long as you keep treating it as the intern, you're good.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going. I'm very scared of all the tool vendors nowadays that do the same stuff. Oh, by the way, here's the push button, implement production.
So one of the, this is a good example. I think that fits why it will break if you trust it to be the expert.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned fundamentals too. Sorry, what was it? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was doing a modeling training for a company that went through about 40 mergers in their past.
Oh, it's a few.
And they had about 10 systems, and none of them were really compatible, and everybody had jargon that they could not change. And they were having a major culture clash in what certain terms meant. Now, if you look up these words in a dictionary, it's very clear what those meant. But that was not how it was used, and that was not how the business themselves used it. So, and this compares with a couple of years ago, I was talking to another vendor he said, data modeling is dead. It's all schema on read. And I'm like, okay, that's a bold statement. I said, okay, let's take this hypothesis. Okay, let's do schema on read, and you design an airplane with that. Would you fly it?
Right.
No, probably not. I'm like, exactly. So that's the dilemma. Is, when the requirements to get the requirements correct goes up, then you're having something else to deal with. And
Yep.
I am with Remco because it can be a great help and I use it, but I definitely see it as a text processing tool.
Do you use it for coding?
Only for very early prototypes.
Yeah.
Because I found that, as all the papers show, one glitch in the initial start, 30 versions later, it will still make the same mistake.
Yeah.
So I find it helpful in areas where I need to code something that I have no experience with the tech that I'm using, to get a quick prototype to understand, okay, this is kind of how it can make it work. That helps.
Yeah. That's how I use it too. Like Claude Code, for example. If I have an idea, I'm like, cool, let's just see if this idea can be built, right? And then, like, I have it in front of me right now running.
Basically the same as what I'm saying, right? An intern or an assistant. Hey, I have an idea. Just
Yeah,
code
yeah.
it for me.
And it's cool for that. But at the same time, like, one night I had it make something in JavaScript. And part of it is I was curious because JavaScript has the most libraries out there, right? So I'm like, cool, let's see like how much code it actually writes. And so between the dependencies it downloaded, between the code that it wrote, there was about 3.5 million lines of code at the end of the day, within a couple hours. And I thought, okay, great, this is terrific. I don't know if this app works, maybe it does. But even if I wanted to go through either the main code and the source folder that it wrote, or say I wanted to reconcile the dependencies, I would have no idea what it did. Like you would not be able to ration. You would have to ask another AI to go in and tell you what this code does. And that's kind of where you are. Like,
but do you trust it then?
I don't know. That's just it. I mean, so if you use Bayesian stats, I suppose the chance of like, if you're using like 3 LLMs in a row, all 3 of them getting something catastrophically wrong would be pretty rare. But I mean, who knows?
But this is I think the real question is, how much do you trust it? Would you trust it with your social security number? Would you trust it with your credit card? Would you board the plane that it built?
So it depends on the risk. I think the risk is where I'd make that. For me, that's where I make the defining thing, right? So, like my and it's something I wrote last week on more recently on LinkedIn, but it was like, I have my Tesla has self-driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have with it is I still have to pay attention to the car because if that car gets into an accident, I'm legally at fault. Therefore, I didn't buy self-driving because at that point I'm like, if I have to pretend I'm driving, why don't I just drive? So, because the risk is high. If I hit a kid or get into an accident, that sucks. That's not the same as if, I'm taking a Waymo in San Francisco. Like, I love taking Waymos. They're great. The self-driving car. I take those all the time. But the risk is on them at that point.
Right. I mean, there's hardly any risk if the LLM or the AI tells me how to fix a bike tire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Let's tell me again. How do I connect the battery and all of that? That's stuff that has relatively low risk and great value. To just instead of doing the Google search, you get an answer.
Yeah.
What I think is shocking is because basically, let's be honest, it's based upon all the documentation we fed earlier to whatever system, right? The LLM,
I didn't feed it.
Yes, you did. Don't worry. That took your information well.
I know.
Yeah, if you look at all the documentation going on, for instance, very simple, on LinkedIn, right? Not LinkedIn now, but LinkedIn some time ago. People were writing articles and something. I disagree with this one. If it's on the one post, it's okay. But there's so many opposing opinions being posted, being fed into, even on books, right? There's a book, you should always do this one. The other says, you should always do this one. And they are just contradictory. How would you make chocolate out of that one? Just to use a Dutch saying on that one. I've
never heard that saying. That's kind of funny.
There is no way to. If it's for us hard to understand, these are 2 contradictional books. Which one do I trust more? Yes or no? okay, I have to do more research maybe, or I have to say, I have my personal preference on this methodology or this book.
Yeah, sure.
I want to trust it more. So I need to feed my LLM or say to my LLM, that's why I introduced the bias in my modeling part. Say, I trust this more than other documentation. Use this one only. And I think bias is wrong on a whole bunch of perspectives, but it's also very much needed to stop getting crap, to make your intern a little bit better. I think.
Yeah.
You're not flabbergasted, right?
No. We're contemplating. Too many things to say, too many things to consider. It's definitely not sitting still, but I keep reading articles where the key issue is that it really doesn't think. And I think that's the real problem, because what even in data and in business and what we're trying to do with how does the domain expert themselves talk about their data in their own language, it requires effort to get through that. I've been in sessions for 2 hours over one single sentence. At the end, we agreed, and the expert said, I had no idea my work was so complicated. And I think if we skip all of that and we get 3.5 million lines of code, then what are we doing? Do we even know what it's doing? Do we even know if it's right? So all of that goes out the window. And when it comes down to, we need to get it right to get a decent ROI, not just for the next 2 months, but also for the next 10 years. We need to do something better.
But how does that balance, though? The question I've been having a lot with this is AI is going to. I think the temptation is, and the expectation is, AI is going to make people move faster with fewer resources, right? At least that's how it is in the States. So the expectation is, we're not going to hire more people. Marco, you and your AI, Remco and your AI, you're on your own with this. Figure out our entire company. I might be exaggerating a bit, but I think that would probably be the expectation for both of you if you were to come into a company, at least in the States, is we don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We don't have time for months of workshops and all that. Like, help us now. How would you respond to something like that?
I would take a plane, go back to the Netherlands again. No, I think the basic, if the organization, the business doesn't have time to explain to me and tell me, right, in workshop what they're doing, I can have so many AI, whatever, going towards me. It's not going to work. If there's no one in the organization helping me out and explaining to me what it's all about, what are they doing, why do they exist, whatever, then it's not going to work. And they can say, oh yeah, just go on Confluence or our own wiki or whatever. That is not how it works, because that's what Marco's saying, right? There are so many people, specialists in organization, which are really specialists. They don't have that information written down in a way you can make anything about it. It's in their head, it's in their mind, and it's in their work.
Right.
And you need to get it out.
I use the example
workshop.
Yeah.
And AI is not going to fix that for you.
They're not a mind reader yet.
Well,
but I think it is also a cultural thing. I mean, it's we're talking here, two Dutchies with an American, and my wife is an American, and I can see there's definitely a different attitude and work ethics in the US, and
we're different.
Not necessarily for the good. I'm sorry to say.
We're just different.
It's different, yes.
So there's in a way, if I may be so blunt, from the outside looking in, there is tremendous pressure to perform in the US.
Oh, way more than I can tell you.
Because you might lose your job just by looking at your boss wrong, that is entirely different in the Netherlands, where you cannot be fired for any just cause. Even when you get sick, you get paid for at least a year and sometimes almost full for 2 years.
Damn.
So that gives an entirely different work-life perspective where you can sit at your boss's desk and say, okay, let's just talk this through because I'm not sure if we're doing the right thing here. And I think that is a world of difference. And a lot of people that I present this information modeling is, okay, you need to, I'm sure Remco has the same issues in getting new clients on board. It's like, why would we do this? Well, it's not going to be a return of investment next week. So unless you're willing to actually learn and change something, nothing will change.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're just doing the same for a longer time.
It reminds me a lot of what's happening in America right now with the fitness industry, right? So,
tell me.
Yeah, so like nowadays, wellness and fitness, it's popular in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the typical stereotype of American is we're sitting on our couch, 500 kilos, overweight, drinking our large sodas, eating chips and burgers, on our couch. That's, I think, is a stereotype of an American. But in America, at least, right now there's a lot of push for exercising. Alcohol's down, but it took a long time to get here, right? But I think people, are starting to find that, yes, if you put in the effort, if you do the foundational stuff for your health and fitness, it's crazy. Weird things happen. Like you're healthy, you're fit, you lose weight, you can actually get up and walk. It's weird.
Health insurance going down.
Health insurance goes right, and health insurance is something it's another thing, right? I think this is also part of the job insecurity is in America. We have to have health insurance because there is no government-funded program universally. You can have Medicare and Medicaid. A lot of those are getting cut right now. And so that's one thing that keeps people at their jobs and is probably more scared than actually losing their job is losing their healthcare benefits. Because if you do that, you can go bankrupt in this country. And America, as I tell people, you can be as rich as you want. You could also go from being pretty well off to being as poor as you could possibly be in probably a matter of months. And you won't recover from that. And so, but the foundational stuff is, like you said, it's interesting because what I'm seeing is more of a mindset shift where people are finally waking up and realizing it. But it's like we're the most stubborn people in the universe, I would say. Like, we have this exceptionalism. Like, we have the highest GDP in the world. Like, who are you to tell us how to run businesses? Like, what are you guys doing? So everything we're doing is obviously great. But but we duct tape over everything. There's shortcuts everywhere in the business world here.
But I wouldn't say it's right. The focus on performance. You need to perform, whatever. Even if you're going over, right, in fitness or whatever you're going to do, it's not per se a bad thing. The over performance, right, the real over focus on that one is a bad thing. I would say in the Netherlands, but probably also in some other countries, but in the Netherlands, work ethics are also at some point, at some organizations, really, really, really bad. Because people think, that you cannot fire me. I just do my own, the minimum of the minimum of the minimum. And even that I don't do very well because, hey, I'm here tomorrow. I'm not finishing today. Well, what are you going to do? You're not going to fire me. I'll come back tomorrow. So there's a different work ethics over here as well, which is also for the benefit. Sometimes you want people to say, hey, come on, act up a little bit. Just do a little bit. Do that 2-3 steps extra. Yeah. And maybe in the US you would say, hey, let's take some time instead of just individually performance. Let's take some time to discuss with each other how we can grow as a team or as an organization.
Are you saying diversity and inclusion?
No, I would definitely not say. No, that's definitely that's one of the things, but it's more like I think what we heard from Tiankai and Eva Maya, right, for instance, in Iceland, the whole communication part and the working together and use a different part of your brain, not only the brain to perform, but also the brain which is more creative and more thinking about other people. Yeah, we need to do that as a whole.
Agreed.
And
yes.
it's
No,
okay.
I'm making a semi joke about it, but it really is, for in trying to find the professionals that can actually pull off information modeling and talk to the business and both become that bridge between IT and business. We, me and a few other people basically started giving up on looking at resumes and far more starting to formulate what kind of personality traits does somebody need. It's not relevant if somebody has a PhD but cannot communicate. That's a no-go, because this business is about talking to people to understand what they're really trying to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
and then translating that back into solutions that can automate and support those people. And I think that is the key, that where we're talking about AI and LLM, is that what we're trying to accomplish is to get the LLMs to get on board in that communication, to ask questions, to come up with summaries, but also to come with a detailed report of transcripts and come up with a preliminary summary of that. So it works both ways, and for AIs and LLMs at this point, especially for text, it's great to work with huge bodies of text. But it comes down really to, do the people understand what's going on? Because that's driving the business.
Yep. Agree.
That's what it's about.
And I might be a little bit too philosophical, but there will always be tools, and there will always be humans. And I think as humans, we're trying to survive and make a living. And I think that should be the focus, not the tools.
Yeah. It's an interesting time right now, right? Because
It is.
it's the first time I've really seen humans also anthropomorphizing to this degree. I'm not sure if that's a word over there, but like trying to, superimpose humanity onto a machine, right? I'm sure this has happened in the past, but really, especially in the States, right? Especially if you go to the Bay Area, it's all about AI singularity. AGI, ASI, 2027 is a year apparently when AGI will appear and ASI and be smarter than humans, and we'll just start handing all of our work over to it. It'll just start running everything, and who the hell knows? Maybe it will. I have no idea. If it's like anything like GPT-5, I don't think so. But I have friends who work in these companies working on these foundation models. And they are getting really, really good. I mean, frighteningly good. The stuff you see now is not the stuff that's being worked on. The stuff that's being worked on is a few years out, and it's pretty insane how good it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to the level that people are expecting. But I don't know what this does, right? Like, it's a because my whole thought is like if as I'm watching Claude Code run in the background, it knows what it quote knows what it needs to build, quote unquote. It doesn't know anything, but it's actually building something. But then I ask AI, okay, so what would if you were to design data infrastructure and data models from first principles for what AI needs, not for what humans need, but for what AI needs? It's actually really fascinating what it comes up with. It's very different than what we're doing right now. It's graphs. It's some sort of semantic thing that agents can talk to with each other in real time. It's fundamentally different than the stuff like any of us are doing. And I think that's interesting, because then I thought, well, what if we just help design that? But then I thought, well, that's stupid, because if it can write code, it could just go build the thing itself too. It already knows what it needs.
Well, it doesn't know where it wants to go.
So, yeah, this is the weird part we're in right now. It's like we're talking about human-centric stuff, but then there's the stuff that robots will probably just start building for itself, maybe. I'm guessing it will. And so it's... I'm puzzled.
I think it's really, really interesting. I think we had this conversation before as well, right? If you have an AGI or a bot or whatever we're going to do, it's coding for another coder, for another bot coding, for another one, and if we run the whole AI-based company, and there's no human in the loop whatsoever, why should it run? What's the benefit?
That was a discussion we had in Iceland, actually. I think the discussion for ethics sort of devolved into the conversation about this.
But why should it run? it's costing huge amount of energy. That's one thing, and the other thing is if it's not in benefit for us in any way, right? Even if we can run it and it working, and the end result means that, hey, the benefit is for us because we get a better gin tonic, or we get what, I don't care even. But if it's not a benefit for us, why should it run? What's in it for the AI? If you see it as a person, a kind of thing.
The fascinating thing to do is ask it. Ask any of the AIs you do, and ask it if you're, what motivates you. It's weird.
No, but you forget it's still text processing.
That's just it. It gives you a bullshit answer.
Right.
But the thing
it's
is,
just gathering the statistical average on what it expects to be a proper and accurate reply to whatever you're typing.
Yeah. But the thing that gives me pause, though, right? Have you read any of the papers on misalignment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So AI, like, going off on its own and, like,
Yeah.
sneaking behind the scenes. Yeah, that's, like, the weird shit where, it's a stochastic parrot, quote unquote, but it also has some apparent motivation. If it's a statistical, motivation, it's still interesting that it has this, it does these actions, right?
It does these actions? I'm not so sure. I kind of sometimes feel that it's just a repeat of 1,000 monkeys trying to randomly type a typewriter and then, waiting for Shakespeare to come out, with the bias that it actually read all the text in the world, including all the hacker pages, etc. So
I guess what would be the difference, though?
No, the thing is, it doesn't have it doesn't look to me as if it has a conscience that actually attempts to do things purposefully because it plans an outcome. And maybe we don't either.
Yeah, that's my whole point.
And that would be the irony.
I mean, one can argue that we're just programs too. So,
but in the end,
in a way, we are right. We are. Yeah.
When it comes down to it, I would rather walk away from data and be homeless while AI takes over the world, and just sit by a campfire.
Oh no, I was doing that this weekend.
I'd be totally fine. I don't need the AI right there.
No, I was up in the mountains over the weekend, and it was funny just because I was out. This is in Wyoming, in the middle of like the least populated state in the country. There's like 500,000 people there. There's more animals than there are people, and it's fun when you go into the country because you look at animals, don't really talk to them, but you kind of look back on the stuff that we talk about, and then you look at the animals, and you're like none of this means anything to them at all. Like they're off doing their things in the woods like they have for thousands of years. They have no concept of anything that we're talking about or doing.
But maybe they are whispering to each other. What do humans do, right? What kind of countries do they have? Why?
What kind of jobs do they have? Like,
what
data modeling are they into? That'd be really weird.
Yeah. Unfortunately, by the way, in Netherlands also we have more animals than people living over here, but that's a different story.
You would have to read a lot of different papers now, because I'm reminded of a podcast where different professionals were sitting together and they were arguing the humans, they think they have free will because it's an evolutionary advantage, but if we actually measure the blood flow in the brain, we can see that certain regions in the brain increase blood flow before a decision is made. So where's the bloody free will?
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's some books out there too that definitely say like the notion of AGI is impossible, right? And you can't mathematically ever get there. I mean, I have a book that says that. So I don't know. It is interesting, right? But you have something that does, I don't think the AIs we have now are the last stop. I mean, this is pretty. There's other stuff being worked on now.
Sure.
GPT-5. I'm looking at the pro version of it, and it's okay. It does a decent job. Like I use it all the time just to map out scenarios for my business and other things, and it does a pretty good job at that. Actually, like the advice is good. I think the one thing I always got to make sure of is that I'm not over relying on these things because it is an incredibly good bullshit artist. Like it's super convincing.
Yeah.
super convincing. Yeah.
There
But
was
the upside is that the AI still needs you to execute it.
yeah, that's true. There was I'm not sure if you saw it. It's a Dutch thing, but there was a student going for a master's, right, writing a thesis, and normally you have a human supervisor, right? It should be a human supervisor, and the human supervisor was Bas Haring and a Dutch professor, and he said, I'm very interesting because what if you are going to write your thesis not with me supervising, but I have AI supervising you, including all the stuff, right? Giving you mental support and all advice on your study, but also on your timing, right? And when to do what. And well, she passed. She wrote her thesis. It was perfectly fine, and it did a good job, apart from the timing aspect. Because AI doesn't care about timing. Because it's a concept it doesn't grasp. Hey, you need to be on time for writing this stuff. It doesn't have that consciousness or whatever, that understanding about the timing might be important. You need to do this at this moment in time, otherwise you are too late for that. It didn't get that one. But all the other one, it was fun. The professor, by the way, said, instead of me looking into it to see if the quality is good enough, what if I can have another AI looking at if the quality is good enough and did a well job? That was not allowed by the commission for her to pass her master's, yes or no, so he did it. But it was fascinating that it's capable of that part, but apart from the timing. Timing was off.
I find it intriguing as well. When I use it to English is not my native tongue, so occasionally I write a piece and I'm like, I'm not sure if this has the right rhythm or grammar up, building up, and etc. etc. So, and I could easily paste the text in ChatGPT and have it improve it according to a certain persona. Mm-hmm. What I find far more interesting is to say, which phrases can you improve on and explain to me why it is better? And that is so instructive because now it actually improves my writing instead of having to go through ChatGPT and just trusting the process and overlooking certain errors. And I think there is a huge value if that would be wrapped as such. I mean, we have spelling checkers in Word, in Office, we have grammar checkers, but we don't have an agent that looks at it and says, okay, have you considered this? Instead of saying, let me write it for you.
Yeah. Well, that's how I use it right now for my articles and even the book I'm working on. Is I use it as a development editor, but also as a sounding board, right? So if I have a question on a topic, I use it all the time because it is I mean, the fact that it's well, it's consumed the whole internet, so it's read more stuff than I have, and so it has. So what I often find, because if I'm in a conversation with people like you, for example, you guys, and we're talking about data, the issue is, and I like it because you guys have different perspectives, but sometimes with my closer circle of friends, if one of us misses something, all of us missed it because all of us have the same blind spots because there's too much groupthink. So the LLMs have, because it doesn't really care. It's like, well, that's great, except you missed this. If you considered this point as well, and it's like, shit, that's actually really good. I've never thought of that. That's pretty awesome. So I use it for that all the time because it broadens, and I feel like it's in that capacity, it's definitely making me maybe a better writer, but at least it's exposing me to new viewpoints I'd never thought of before. So I think that's worth paying for. So
it's kind of how I integrated in my modeling tool work as well.
Cool.
It actually gives textual feedback. It suggests definitions for terms, but it also comes back with a bunch of questions.
Oh, cool.
So not just to give me an answer, but to help me think. Like not just like an intern, but like a sidekick. It's like for the comic relief or for the let's think out of the box here.
Is that something that your customers can use with your product too?
Yeah.
That. I mean, to me, that'd be awesome if you're using like Case Talk, which is your product. that would be sick if I could also just get questions that would help me think more about my own problem.
Yeah.
Like that, because then that puts the AI square in the middle of actually helping the person versus removing the thinking.
And it alleviates me from being the dumb guy, because if I'm interviewing a domain expert who's been doing this for his entire career, I'm coming into the field as a nitwit because I don't know. I have to ask questions, but I can offload some of that to the LLM, who can then say, "Oh, look at these dumb questions. What do you think?" So
I added
really,
it in my modeling AI as well. I basically having given you a business concept and give me on 3 different levels, right? You can in
right.
ChatGPT, you can use the temperature, right? 0.1 to 1. Well, I do 0.1 to 0.9 and somewhere in the middle. And also said, oh, by the way, not only come up with the information, but also if you come with something which was in the text, you can do it, but you have to write it. 0.9 does a little bit more than 0.1, right? It's temperatures thing. And also come up with 5 different questions, which we need to ask in the next workshop.
Yeah.
And that works perfectly fine. It gives great information, right? It gives you information. Oh, this is interesting.
And it has a benefit, like we use it as to write text.
Yeah.
If it comes back with a critical view, you actually get better. Yeah. And if that helps drive the interview with experts, everybody gets better.
Yeah.
But if we go to LLM and say, okay, hey, solve this for us, nobody gets any wiser.
I think that's the cool thing. I think Perplexity, right? Because Perplexity does it out of the box. It automatically gives you, if you feed something, it gives you out of the box questions back. Or think about this one, or gives more information to it. And I think that's a great way of using that information and getting ahead of next steps.
Yeah.
It's not just giving you information, get the answer done. No. Get your own mind going to, this is interesting.
Yeah, so I sense that we're all agreeing that, because it's as soon as you start interviewing an expert who's studied for it, worked it, etc., then after the first interview, you will maybe hear at tops 20% of what he knows. Yeah. But if we're all biased and we think we learned something, we actually perceive it as we heard maybe 80% of what he knows. And this gap is the explorative phase where we need to talk more until we get somehow on the same level. And LM can help in that, but it's not going to take that away, because there's so much knowledge and experience in people's minds. Mm-hmm. You will not find that on the internet. It will not. It's not a theoretical business. It's not. It's practical, and it has history, and it has, oh, wait a minute, if you load this data, you make sure that you subtract a month because that was built with a wrong Java version. I mean, this kind of know-how, you will not be able to generate that automatically, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Well, thanks for the great chat, guys.
Likewise.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
fun.
For people who want to find out more about you, how can they find you? Marco?
Well, either LinkedIn, Marco Wobben, WOBBEN, or kstalk.com.
Awesome.
And for me, it's just on LinkedIn, just my name, Remco Broekmans. That's very easy, right? Especially for non-Dutch people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
I think LinkedIn is the best way to go. Or I think you can also just go on Amazon and just type my name or Marco's name. You get great books back.
Yeah, you got a book. Congrats on that, by the way. Great book. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, looking forward to catching up with you guys sometime down the road. I'm not sure when or where, but I'm sure our paths will cross probably
well, we're going
randomly.
to cross in Helsinki, so sorry for that one.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Nice.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks, you.
See you next time.
Bye.